What's up? What's good, y'all? It is your girl Joanna, and we're back with another episode of The Truth Will Set You Free. So today I'm going to be talking about why it is necessary, it is crucial, it is important to pray for your enemies, to love those who do not love you, to bless those who curse you. Me personally, I've been struggling with this a little bit the last couple of weeks. Kind of dealing with a little personal issue, which I'm being persecuted a bit. That's weird. Like this mosquito bite or something behind my ear. I won't say being persecuted, just, people don't always understand. People don't see eye to eye on issues, and I've been struggling with this a little bit. Just being like, God, why do I have to be nice to people who ain't nice to me? Why do I have to, you know what I mean? How do you expect me to do this? How? And as I was sitting here just 10 minutes ago, flipping through my Bible, I happened to stop on page 1111, which just happened to be Luke 4:44, and on the other page was Luke 3:33. And I was like, well, if that ain't a sign, I don't know what is. So I stopped and I read, and I said, oh, dang, God, man, he just comes and convicts your heart right when he needs to. Anyway, so I'm going to get into it, read a little bit of scripture here. I'm sure y'all have already heard this, but it was pretty powerful for me. So, yeah, what I'm actually going to share is a few pages down. So Luke chapter 6. All right. I might just read this whole little passage right here that Jesus said, because it's all good stuff. And just convicted the heck out of my heart. So, sometimes we get stuck in these patterns. It's hard because, we're in fleshly bodies, and we have urges of the flesh, and, things that get under our skin, our flesh, and things that, we don't. It's hard, to be in this world and to be of God, and you will be persecuted. You will be persecuted, not just by people who don't believe, but people who claim to believe. Everybody. Especially in these days, these last days, with this deception and all this false doctrine that's been taught in these churches. So I'm gonna read to y'all what Jesus says, so y'all can hear what I just heard. Man, God just came and put me in my place. But I feel better. My heart feels better now, so I'm thankful. I'm humbled. And anyway, Luke chapter 6, verse 22. Verse 22. I'm going to start there. I'm probably just going to read all the way to chapter 7 because it's all good stuff. All right. Luke 6:22. Blessed are ye when men shall hate you, and when they shall separate you from their company, and shall reproach you, and cast out your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake. Rejoice ye in that day, and leap for joy. For behold, your reward is great in heaven. It's one thing that we have to keep in mind. It's hard when we're in this world and we're persecuted. We go through struggles, we go through trials and tribulations, and it's hard sometimes to stay focused on the goal, because the goal always seems so far away. We have to know that when we're persecuted by this world is because we are living with God. We are walking with God. We are walking with Christ. And anyone who walks with Christ knows that what Christ gives you is so much more than anything this world could ever offer, And I know sometimes people look at me like, she ain't really got nothing popping. She ain't doing nothing with her life right now. She ain't got no job. She ain't got this. She ain't got... I got God. God is so much more than any of that other stuff. And it's hard, sometimes to remember that, but you just, you got to stay focused on that. And it's hard, and, if you get to that place and you start forgetting, go to church, go to your mama house, go to whoever is going to remind you to stay focused on the prize. All right, I'm going to keep reading. Verse 23, for your reward is great in heaven, for in the like manner did their fathers unto the prophets. But woe unto you that are rich, for you have received your consolation. Woe unto you that are full, for ye shall hunger. Woe unto you that laugh now, for ye shall mourn and weep. Woe unto you, woe unto all the men that shall speak well of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets. But I say unto you which hear, love your enemies. Do good to them which hate you. Do good to them which hate you. And that's a very fierce commandment. If there's anything I believe Christian believer people are supposed to do, religious, doctrines aside, people who believe in spirituality, people who are spiritual people, if there's anything you're supposed to do, you cannot fight fire with fire. The only thing that gets through to people on a heart level is love. Is love. You can't change somebody's mind by screaming at them. You can't. You have to love the hate right out of them. It's the only way. It's the only way, and it's not easy. It's not easy to love people who hate you. Sometimes I think, God, how can you ask me to do that? God. And I have to remember. That one, I need to obey every command he gives me without question. And two, that's how it works. Love will break down all barriers. Love will break down that pride and the stubbornness and the lies, so they can see through the truth. And hatred and anger and jealousy and bitterness is never gonna do that. And it might feel good to your fleshly self, but it's not going to accomplish what God put you here to accomplish, which is your whole point of being on this planet. We are his servants. We are here to serve him and to serve his people. That is our sole reason for existence on this planet. I'm keep reading here. Verse 28. Bless them which curse you, and pray for them which despise you. And unto him that smiteth thee on one cheek also offer unto him the other. And him that taketh away thy cloak forbid not to take thy coat also. Give to every man that asketh of thee, and ask him that, and of him that taketh away thy goods, ask them not again. We say, if someone asks you for something that they need, you give it to them freely and don't ask for it back. It's not about what you get in return. It's about the act of giving. It's about the act of servitude. That's what we have to focus on. Verse 29, and I already read that. Verse 31, excuse me. And as ye would that men should do to you, do ye also to them likewise. Okay, and this is the idea of the golden rule. Sometimes the way they word, man, this old English stuff. Alright, but treat people how you want to be treated. That's what that just said. For if ye love them which love you, what thank have ye? For sinners also love those that love them. And if you do good to them which do good to you, what thank have ye? For sinners also do even the same. And if ye lend to them of whom ye hope to receive, what thank have ye? For sinners also lend to sinners to receive as much again. Verse 35, but love ye your enemies, and do good, and lend, hoping for nothing again. And your reward shall be great, and you shall be children of the highest. Amen. For he is kind even unto the unthankful and to the evil. Be ye therefore merciful, as your Father is also merciful. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven. And sometimes I think it's easy for us to get into this place where we start comparing. We start comparing sins. And that is not our job. Our job is not to compare sins. Our job is not to judge other people for what it is that they're not doing right, because we know that we live in a constant state of imperfection. There's always something that we could be doing better. And when God shows us grace, he shows us grace. How dare we? How dare we not extend that to the next person? Because all of us are undeserving of the grace of the Most High. And he gives it to us anyway because he loves us. So how dare we not extend that to the next person? It's not right. And it's not right to get in this point of comparing sins. That is not your job. You are not the judge. God is the judge. Don't judge. That's not your job. That's not what he wants you to do. He wants you to love. He wants you to love. And sometimes it's hard. It's hard because we feel persecuted and we get defensive. And we want to yell at somebody. We want to tell them off. We want to speak our minds. That's not what God wants us to do, because that's not going to help them find God, which is our entire purpose of preaching, of being a part of this apostleship, of being called to the gospel, is to teach, to bring other people to God. And anything that does not, that deviates from that goal is not something we should be doing. All right, verse 38, give and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down and shaken together and running over, shall men give unto your bosom. For with the same measure that ye met withal, it shall be measured to you again. And he spake a parable unto them, and said, can the blind lead the blind? Shall they not both fall into the ditch? The disciple is not above his master, but everyone that is perfect shall be as his master. And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but perceivest not the beam that is in thine own eye? And that's him reminding us, you can't be out here judging other people, because you're not perfect. You're not perfect either. It doesn't matter if you perceive what you're doing to be better or to be not as bad as what they're doing. That's not your job. You're not the judge. You don't get to do that. Either how canst thou say to thy brother, brother, let me pull out the mote that is in thine eye, when thou thyself beholdest not the beam that is in thine eye? Thou hypocrite, cast out the first beam of thine eye, and then shalt thou clearly see to pull out the mote that is in thy brother's eye. For a good tree bringeth not forth corrupt fruit, neither doth the corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. For every tree is known by his own fruit. For of thorns men do not gather figs, nor of bramble bush gather they grapes. Okay. You can't get good fruit from a poisonous tree. You have to try. You have to attempt at your very best at all times. Like I said, we can never be perfect until we die and we go back to heaven. And God, through Jesus, we are cleansed of our sins. We are given grace, and we return to that state of perfection. Until that happens, we are constantly struggling with our flesh. You cannot get good fruit from a good tree. So we have to try our best to be good fruits in all areas of our lives. Verse 45, okay, chapters, Luke 6:45. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart bringeth forth that which is good, and an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart bringeth forth that which is evil. For of the abundance of the heart his mouth speaketh. And why call ye me Lord, Lord, and do not the things which I say? Do not the things which I say. I think I'm going to stop there for a second. So I just want to remind everybody with a slightly more Christ-like tone that I was trying to have 30 minutes ago. As Christians, you got to remember, it is not our job to judge. It is not our job to thump people over the head with this book. It is our job to love them, and to pray for them. That is our job. Our job is not to judge. Our job is not to tell them that they're going here, they're going there. Our job is to love them. And I'm not saying that when you see something wrong, yes, correct it, stand up, say something. But there is a difference between letting someone know about their wrongdoing and thumping them over the head with the Bible. That does not help anybody, and that's not Christ-like. And there are too many people who claim to be Christians who are running around using doing that type of thing. Out here bumping people over the head with Bible scriptures when you ain't living right. And even if you are living right, you are not allowed to judge. That is not your job. I really, really wish people would stop doing that, because it's not helpful. You're driving people away from God when they hear people out here quoting all these scriptures, contradictory scriptures. Half of y'all ain't even reading enough of the Bible to even be out here quoting like that. You need to read. You need to understand this book. You need to understand what it's talking about. You need to understand why the contradictions are contradictions. And if you don't understand that the contradictions are not really contradictions, and then there's two different gospels written in that book, and you're supposed to discern the difference, rightly divide the word, don't be out here quoting at people. That's not helpful. That's not helpful. I really hope to see a decrease in that among the spiritual community, because that type of stuff is driving a lot of people away from God. A lot of people, because they don't want to believe in God, because, oh, this doctrine is, this book has been altered, and this doctrine they teach in these churches, and they got everybody thinking God is evil, and he don't like you, and he don't love everybody, he only loves certain people, and that's not true. And if you believe truly, you know that's not true. So don't perpetuate that kind of belief system onto another person, because you're going to drive them away from God, and your job is not to drive away, but to bring closer to. That is your job. And if you can't do that, if you're not in a place where you can do that with a loving spirit, then just don't. Don't. Not until you can get back there. Okay? So that's all I just want to say. That's my little lesson for today. Love your enemies is important. Why? Because God asked you to, and we are his servants. At the end of the day, that's the biggest reason why. But mostly, also, not mostly, but also because love is the only thing that can overcome hate and anger and jealousy. Every fruit that is not of God can be driven out with love. For you to try to fight fire with fire, it does not work like that. You're not helping anybody. Your job is to bring people back to God. And if you're not doing that, you need to change the way you're approaching talking to people about God. Okay? So I just pray that all you guys, I hope you hear this. I hope it resonates with you. I hope, God the Father allows this message to resonate with you. And I hope that as a community, as a spiritual community, we can move toward a place of peace and of loving and of caring, preaching instead of this thumping, because that's not Christ-like at all. All right, so I'm going to end it there. Peace and love. Love you guys. God bless. Shalom.